Today's first impression comparison is another one from the series of popular versus underrated. Hello, welcome back to Seldomly Often. I'm Daniel. Today we're talking fragrances, and this is a first impression comparison between L'Artisan Parfumeur Timbuktu and Creed Aventus Absolu. In this video series, I compare and give my first impressions on two fragrances, usually in sample form that I chose to cover a specific topic. This is not a fragrance battle. We're not here to decide which of the two fragrances is better. We're here to open the conversation and talk about the wear experience. I guess I've been riding the more utilitarian fragrance train lately, and even in today's comparison, obviously we're going to be looking at the more popular option and the least popular option, but both of these fragrances are year-round wears, very comfortable, very mass appealing, and actually very well received. On one side of the ring, we have the king, the undisputed king of popularity. We have Creed Aventus. This time here, it's in the Absolute version. I have not smelled Absolu Aventus. I don't know what it smells like. I have smelled Aventus throughout the years in many batches, which I really haven't been paying attention to. Creed Aventus per se is a fragrance that really never resonated with me. I really never got a bottle. I really never understood it. Every time I smelled it, I was like, yeah, this smells good. But it kind of smelled boring and just not worth the price in my opinion. Also, me being me, not really being into hype fragrances, mass appealing fragrances, and even more utilitarian signature scent fragrances, had me kind of question Aventus a little bit, and just overall Creed as a house really never resonated with me. The whole marketing, the whole aesthetic, the whole idea behind Creed is a little bit too old-timey for my taste. Now, I really want to like the house, and I've been really trying different things. I feel that the Creed fragrance that I liked the least from the house that I sampled was Green Irish Tweed. There's something about it that really smelled chemical, that really smells synthetic. It didn't smell fresh at all. Rather, it was fresh, it was good for daily use, but the longevity of it, the whole idea of it was just too simplistic, especially for the price. And Aventus kind of follows suit in that. Every time I would sample it, I would be like shrugging my shoulders and just putting the sample away. On the other hand, I smelled Viking recently. I smelled Bois de Portugal, which I have a video coming out on that soon. Very beautiful stuff. So yeah, I am warming up to the house. Maybe I have to walk off the beaten path. Maybe I have to search for those underrated gems. Maybe for those more quirky fragrances. But yeah, eventually I might even end up with a bottle of Creed. As I mentioned, I never smelled Aventus Absolu in my life. This is assumingly the best version of Aventus, as the name implies, the absolute version of Aventus. I can't really remember what the process for the manufacturing of Aventus Absolu implies. Even the notes on the Absolu, if you're referring to the popular websites, are a little bit different. It seems to feature a little bit more fruits in the top, like more citruses. I think there's some sort of like a black currant or blackberry. The pineapple note is still there, the prominent pineapple. On the other side, we have a fragrance that I'm really interested in. This is L'Artisan Parfumeur Timbuktu. I almost bought this fragrance many times. What really held me back from the purchase of this was the apparent massive reformulation in the house of L'Artisan Parfumeur that almost killed the house completely. The house of L'Artisan Parfumeur, once highly regarded as one of the best houses in the niche market, now kind of fell into the shadows, similarly to Serge Lutens. I feel that Serge Lutens maintained their quality somewhat. I don't really have much experience with L'Artisan Parfumeur in general, so I can't really comment on that. But from what I've heard, all the reformulations really hurt a lot of their fragrances. I chose to compare these very different fragrances on paper for a very specific reason. They both have a similar type of construction, meaning that both of them have fruity top notes, and they both dry down to this very woody vetiver type of thing. I really want to see how these fare and compare to each other in practice, but I have a suspicion that these are going to be two excellent four-season wears, very much every day, every situation, signature scent worthy scents. I feel that both of these might be great mass appealing scents, very easy to wear, very easy to appreciate, maybe both a little bit leaning masculine, but we'll see where this goes and I'll give you my recommendations later. Before we start, let me just remind you how all this works. I'll be spraying these two directly on skin, left and right arm. I'll be giving you my very first impressions on the opening, maybe talking a little bit about the house, maybe talking about why exactly I chose these fragrances. Then I'll be coming back after our break, maybe 1 to 2 hours, talking about the dry down, giving my expectations about longevity, maybe use case, price for performance, and all that jazz. Okay, enough chit-chatting, let's start out. We're gonna be spraying L'Artisan Parfumeur Timbuktu on my left arm, and we're gonna be spraying Creed Aventus Absolu on my right arm. I say we start with the Creed Aventus Absolu. This from the two is a scent that really interests me a little bit more. I'm kind of hoping that this will be the scent to really make me fall in love with the Creed Aventus DNA. All right, these samples are not that great, so I'll be spraying 3 sprays on each arm. Okay, let's air it out a little bit. I can already detect it in the air. Very perfumey, very usual manly perfume. This immediately is bringing me back to when I sampled Creed Aventus. But I'm really trying to keep an open mind, and I'm gonna be judging this as its own thing. Okay, so first and foremost, I have to note that there's not a ton of alcoholic evaporation. For whatever reason, some fragrances really need a couple minutes to kind of like settle down, while some others are ready to smell right away. This one here is kind of like that, it's ready to go. Another thing that immediately strikes my nose is how dense this is. It's way more denser than I remember Aventus being. There are definitely fruity notes up there, there are definitely citruses and other stuff that I really haven't focused on yet. But these fruity notes feel dense, they feel drowned in oil, they feel very, very rindy compared to your typical, very zesty, very zingy type of citrus top notes. Yeah, I can already confirm that the scent is pretty much already sitting in the mid-tone. As soon as I sprayed, I got a little bit of a zing, a little bit of a top note, maybe from the bergamot. Almost like when you squeeze like a citrus peel and you get that like burst of oils. I kind of got that to my nose, but that is pretty much gone. And the scent is very heavy, very mid-tone present. This is not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of the scents I like are very mid-tone. A lot of the more four-season wearable scents sit in the mid-tone just because you want to ride that sort of middle ground. And if the bulk of the scent sits in the mid-tone, it's relatively straightforward to forecast, pretty decent longevity. The projection will also be pretty good. The projection on this is decent. I can smell it in the air. It's not mind-blowing, it's not room-filling, but it's decent, it's there. Again, there's this distinct lack of top notes, which I wasn't expecting, which really threw me off. As of now, most of the fruity notes are basically revolving around citruses. I'm not really getting the distinct, iconic pineapple note. I'm not really getting anything else. They're very sweet, very dense, once again. It's they have like an acidic type of tone to them. And in the background, I already get some sort of a woody note, some sort of a vetiver note that's there to kind of like support these citruses. In the opening alone, it comes across as pretty straightforward, not too complicated. I'm not too surprised on that regard. Even the other Aventus batches that I smelled were pretty much straightforward. Very simple, kind of manly fragrances, very good DNA. It works well objectively, I can't combat that. Definitely not too complex. I feel that the scent smells decent. I don't know if it's decent for the price. We'll have to tell down the road. But as of now, I feel that it's greatly mass appealing. It's very nice, it's very pleasant. It has definitely some sort of a manliness to it. I actually feel that this fragrance approach is way more manly, way more masculine than other stuff that you would think that you would normally associate to manliness, stuff like leathers, stuff like ouds. I feel that this is actually stereotypical manly scent. And this kind of rides the same idea that I've covered in my last first impression comparison when I compared Brackenman to Penhaligon's Endymion. Those two were very distinctly manly scents, very stereotypical, very nicely dressed up. And this kind of has the same type of vibe, although they smell nothing like it because this one doesn't have any mintiness, it doesn't have any lavender. It still smells like a man, it still smells like a guy. I'm not really getting much else till now, so I say we move on to L'Artisan Parfumeur Timbuktu. This is also actually a scent that I'm very excited about. This is by my man Bertrand Duchaufour. If you know me, I love the guy. I love basically everything he does. Even his last release for Amouage, Reasons, really resonated with me. And I feel that everything he puts his hands on, everything he produces, really is to my taste. There's something about the way he puts his fragrances together. I like Jubilation 25, 40, I like Sartorio, I like his work for Aedes de Venustas. Really, Bertrand Duchaufour can't do no wrong for me. So yeah, Bertrand Duchaufour, one of my favorite perfumers ever. Let's see how Timbuktu fares in this possibly reformulated version. 3 sprays of this also. And by the way, I haven't touched upon it, but my experience with Timbuktu is very, very limited. I never gave any full wear. I never really owned a sample. The only time I smelled Timbuktu was years ago in a shop where I sprayed it and I thought it was amazing. I actually wanted to buy a bottle, but right then and there, I actually never bought the bottle. I was kind of hoping to find it at a discounted price online. Once I got home, this eventually got kind of forgotten in the pile. It kept resurfacing on my wish list, it kept resurfacing on my radar, but given the possibility of the reformulation, everyone's talking about the fact that this scent was basically dead and a shadow of its former self, so that kind of put me off. Today, we're gonna see if this is still good, still relevant, and ultimately, if I still recommend it. This is beautiful, actually. It's very, very beautiful, very, very pleasing. The fruity notes on top are so well done, so photorealistic. I seem to remember that in the notes there's mango, but you can definitely pick up some sort of a tropical vibe to it. There's like an apricot type of feel also. Very sweet, very juicy, very photorealistic. You have these orange, green fruits. It's beautiful. The scent is incredibly beautiful and smooth. There's something in the top notes with the fruit that it's giving the fruit a very creamy, smooth aspect, almost kind of like a milkshake. Maybe it might be sandalwood, it might be some sort of like an almond, it might be, I'm not really sure what could be giving this, but it's so smooth. Smooth is the term here, and very different compared to the Aventus opening. The Aventus is a lot greener, a lot more oily, a lot more woody, while this overall on the top is incredibly smooth. My God, this is so beautiful. The scent is absolutely beautiful, incredibly 3D. It's almost like you can get your head in there and look around and see this like vortex of like orange, the green, very fruity, very creamy. It's absolutely magnificent. I have nothing in my wardrobe that smells even remotely like this. Okay, back to the Aventus quick. Very stable, very oily, very mid-tone. It smells pretty much like before, like I sprayed it. Everything is still there. The fruit is very rindy, very green, very oily. The woody background is sort of emerging from the bottom, and it's sort of really supporting this fruit note. It's beautiful, it's very manly. I feel that Aventus is definitely more manly than L'Artisan Parfumeur. And although a lot more unisex, probably due to the sweetness of the mango or whatever other orange fruits are in the mix, maybe that creaminess, there is still a woody supporting note to all of this. And there's something about fruits and kind of like dry woods that really define a fragrance as masculine in my eyes. These are very, very beautiful, very elegant, both of them. I feel that L'Artisan Parfumeur leans a little bit more playful, while Aventus is a little bit more put together, a little bit more formal in a way. Both of them could be probably worn by the same type of demographic, because although it's a little bit more playful, L'Artisan Parfumeur does not scream youthful at all. Both of them are quite mature in my opinion. They're very dry, very serious scents. They kind of fall into the realm of dad scents, kind of like I described again, Bracken Man and Endymion from Penhaligon's in my last comparison. Okay, I'm surrounded by a beautiful sillage. Both of these two fragrances radiate off my skin a lot. They're both interesting, not necessarily surprising, neither of them. If I have to pick between the two, my favorite opening would definitely lean more towards L'Artisan Parfumeur. It's a little bit more fun, a little bit more youthful. The Aventus is good, I like it a lot actually, but it's nothing specifically new. I smelled something similar in L'Acqua di Parma, what was that? Bergamotto di Calabria. And given the price of this thing, I know it's expensive. I'm not really sure that I would buy a bottle as for now. Maybe the dry down will change my mind. I'll be coming back in about 2 hours or so. I really want to experience these as I go about my day and tell you about my dry down in a bit. Okay, we're back. It's been a little bit over 2 hours. I was initially planning to go outside to see how these fare in the real world. These are both very appealing, very mass appealing, very easy to wear outside. Sometimes I wear fragrances that are not necessarily too easy, so I have to kind of stick it out inside the house, especially for my first wears when I'm getting to know the fragrances. But with these two, it would be very, very easy and safe to go out in public. Both of these fragrances pretty much transition exactly the way I was expecting them to do. Basically, I was expecting them to lose a lot of their fruit notes and go into their more woody base, and that's exactly what happened. Let's start with Aventus Absolu. First and foremost, I want to mention that the scent is still very present, still very loud. I feel it around my skin, I feel it in the air. It's still radiating a lot. So I kind of forecast the longevity for this to be quite good. The scent is still very mid to base heavy. Nothing really changed in the tonal range, but something changed in the fruit notes. As those citruses evaporated away, as those acidic notes are now gone, and by the way, I really never picked up on the iconic pineapple note, they left behind something interesting. There's another fruit in there, and it's very sweet and very round, very smooth. It's very strange because now you have those woody notes, those dry vetiver notes, a very smoky, ashy type of a manly scent profile. But on the top, now you have this very jammy type of fruit. It smells like berries. It smells like jam. It smells like jam that you put on peanut butter and jelly. And it's very smooth, very round, and very sweet. And this sweetness pairs perfectly with the woods. It makes for a beautiful scent profile, which is actually quite unique. Very dry, very manly, but at the same time it has this sweet edge to it that really gives it a little bit more of a character. I think it's really good, and the dry down for Aventus Absolu is definitely my favorite stage of the fragrance. I initially thought that this would be a lot more plain and bland, especially upon initial spray, where I actually compared this to Acqua di Parma Bergamotto di Calabria, and I still stand by that. But the dry down is absolutely where this thing shines and where the thing merits its presence and possibly even its price tag. In comparison, L'Artisan Parfumeur Timbuktu really changed completely. And now the scent is completely dry and completely devoid of fruity aspects and sweetness whatsoever. It's basically a very rooty, very smoky type of woody scent. The woody component and woody backbone of both of these fragrances are actually very similar. They sit in the same type of tonal range, they have the same type of volume, and they wear very, very similarly. So I feel that the woody component in both of them have the same type of function. Now in Timbuktu, the woody component, as I mentioned, is very much isolated and completely devoid of any sweetness. Right now, this scent is very, very dry, very vetiver forward. It almost smells like the dry down of something like Encre Noire by Lalique. There is something in here that gives it a little bit of a roundness. It's possibly some sort of an incense note, or maybe some residue of like sandalwood, some sort of a creaminess that is like permeating the scent profile. But overall, this is very dry, very masculine, and very, in a way, brash and aggressive. It's not aggressive per se, it's not loud or it's not piercing. It's just very gritty. It has this woody texture to it. It's like dry wood. And if you ever like picture like a wooden plank that's been sitting under the sun baking there, that's kind of the scent profile that you can get from L'Artisan Parfumeur Timbuktu. And this is a very stark difference from the opening, where the scent was pretty much a mango milkshake. And in between the two phases, in the mid to mid dry down, basically a scent was just transitioning between the fruits and this woody aspect. And the fruits became obviously less creamy, less zingy, and just more sweet. And eventually that sweetness just left completely. As far as intensity goes, I have to definitely give it to Aventus here. L'Artisan Parfumeur is a little bit disappointing in the projection aspect. It was very loud in the first maybe 45 minutes, but then as soon as the fruit went off, the scent is very much more of a skin scent. Now, as I usually say, when fragrances dry down to sort of a scent profile, very dry woods, very vetiver forward, a little bit bitter, The fragrances might be a skin scent, but the fragrance itself is very, very detectable on my skin. It really always sits on the skin and never in it. And I never really absorb it until the very, very late dry down. My skin is very good at absorbing musk. It's very good at absorbing vanilla. It's very good at absorbing that type of thing. But this thing just sits on my skin like forever. It's not radiating. I'm not really getting much of a sillage, but I'm very sure that if someone would get close, they could easily pick it up. Yeah, it's definitely there. That being said, if you're into sillage and push, Aventus is definitely the better scent of the two. Touching upon the practicalities, as expected, these two fragrances are extremely wearable, very mass appealing, very elegant, very refined. I feel that they are a little bit more utility focused, and although they can be worn casual to elegant, they're a little bit more designed to be an accessory for a well put together look, if you know what I mean. Any kind of day at the office, business meeting, or any kind of event or meeting where you're showcasing yourself as a person, these serve the same type of utility that a really nice watch serves. It's more of a complement to your whole package rather than a standout statement piece. If you're only wearing these two fragrances and you show up in sweatpants, don't expect much, don't expect compliments. But if you're dressed to the T, if you're feeling confident, if you're showcasing the best of yourself, wearing something like this would absolutely elevate your perceived persona. I'm not saying, and I definitely cannot guarantee that these will get you compliments, but if any fragrance will do it, these will probably be the ones for it because they're literally designed to enhance your personality and just overall kind of presence in the room. As I mentioned in my first segment, I do feel that these lean a little bit more mature, and not necessarily mature as in old, just kind of like more put together, like an adult. And especially how I described basically them enhancing your presence. If you don't have that presence, if you don't have that confidence, if you're not at that stage in your life, wearing something like this kind of feels just out of place altogether. Although very different in scent profile, I think that these are both comparable in vibe and utility, and you could probably wear them interchangeably without no one really noticing the difference between the two. I feel that they both serve the same purpose. These are both excellent, actually fantastic everyday wears, signature scent worthy, 4-season wears. These are the type of fragrances for the people that want only one bottle, that want something high-end, that want something refined, almost like a statement piece, again, similarly to an expensive watch, that they wear in the same type of vibe. If you're that type of person, you're searching for the successful fragrance, the one that it's easy to reach, you don't really have to think about it, you're not really into fragrances, you just want something high quality, refined and elegant, top tier, just get Aventus Absolu. It will probably serve exactly the purpose you're looking for. If on the other hand, you're a little bit more into perfumery, you're a little bit more aware of your taste, you want something a little bit more unique, you don't want to smell like everyone else, you probably want to go with, in this case specifically, L'Artisan Parfumeur Timbuktu, just because it's different. It has the mango opening. It's a little bit more fun in a way. It might allow you to be carrying yourself with a little bit more of a fun stride, a little bit more fun approach to life. If you're that kind of person, L'Artisan Parfumeur is very much recommended. Price-wise, I still feel that Aventus Absolu is very much overpriced. I don't really feel that price is relevant in this conversation because if you are the guy that purchases expensive watches, that wears expensive suits, you're probably the guy that wants the best in the fragrance world. And if you have one bottle, Aventus Absolu is fine, just get that and you're gonna be happy. On the other hand, L'Artisan Parfumeur for about $150 on discounters is still a great deal. I feel that the performance is a little bit lacking. I'm not really sure down the road. I'm expecting maybe 6 hours of wear. But yeah, you could definitely do better. I would definitely want to smell the OG version of this, the pre-reformulation one, just because I'm very curious. I like the scent profile. I think that I could wear it a lot. I think that it could be potentially, if I were into signature scents, my signature scent because it's very beautiful. It's fun, but quirky at the same time. I could definitely pull this off. But I'm definitely not gonna go looking around paying exorbitant prices for pre-reformulated bottles of this thing. It's just not gonna happen. So yeah, if you have any recommendations for options for L'Artisan Parfumeur Timbuktu that have kind of the same type of vibe, the same kind of fun aspect to them, please leave them down in the comments. I will definitely check them out. Overall, as usual, fun times, very much appreciated the experience. You never stop learning, you never stop expanding your language. And the key takeaway for this, actually, if you're into fragrances, if you're into this sort of thing, is that you should really never stop sampling stuff that is outside of your comfort zone or outside of your radar. You never know how your taste might change, you never know how your taste might evolve. Keep being open-minded, keep being objective. This is the way you build your database of experience. This is the way you build your language. If you like this type of content, if you like my approach to video, feel free to subscribe. It's always massively appreciated and it always helps the channel. If you want to interact with me, leave a comment, opinion, or anything else down below. I always reply and I always keep the conversation open. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your time. It's always massively appreciated. Until the next time, until the next video, many more to come. As usual, see ya and cheers.